What's the thing you've heard a single person say or do that made you think, that's why they're single? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. Friend dated a guy who took her cat to the shelter as a stray. The cat was chipped and they called her to pick it up. She couldn't figure out how the cat got out and the boyfriend claimed he didn't know. It happened a second time and she had the cameras checked for the person dropping the cat off. She called him on it and he denied it. She broke up with him, but I always joke that she drove him to the shelter instead. Similar thing, but growing up we had 2 dogs. My mom hated one. Well, one day I got a call from the shelter in the town my mom worked in. Somehow our dog she hates managed to get almost 30 miles away and be found just standing on the side of the road cowering. My mom denies any knowledge of. Worse yet, we used to have a cat, also chipped and she also hated, that got out and was never found. We fear she learned the last time and just killed it instead. Story 2. Friend of mine struggles with anxiety and just generally doesn't handle social situations well, so struggled with women for many years. Finally got talking to a girl on a dating app and asked her out. He was taking her to lunch for the afternoon and asked if my wife and I would meet them afterwards for drinks. When we met them for drinks, it turns out they grabbed McDonald's and drove around town to places from Craigslist so he could buy Magic the Gathering cards. He wore sweatpants and flip-flops. It was winter and snowy. He spent most of our time angrily ranting about how an upcoming minimum wage increase was going to kill the economy and close businesses. He makes minimum wage. He never saw her again. Story 3. This one is actually pretty funny. Met this guy at a concert, told him he was hot. Exchanged contact info. We went out to dinner and to the movies a few times, hung out at events we were both at. Mind you, he's hot, funny, polite, really socially awkward, but overall very nice. Man was floored when I finally just asked him point blank if he wanted to have. He did not perceive my interest. When I met him, I wondered hard why he was single. It's a small town, you know? Like, good men are in short supply. It's because he's oblivious. Completely oblivious. Last time we went out, a really hot lady was trying to pick him up and I just sat back and watched her send signal after signal and drop hint after hint, and it rolled off him like water off a duck. Story 4. Coworker had a short relationship and breakup and was obviously depressed about it, so I engaged and asked about it. His comment was, "I just don't understand how to make women feel like I believe that their opinion matters when they always have such stupid life." I was hoping it was just a weird way of saying he's struggling to treat women equally, so I asked him to talk about it a bit. Didn't misunderstand. To him, men's views are obviously superior and it's all about simply pretending that women matter, and he was struggling hard to do that. Story 5. I was at a party where a man had been invited specifically to meet a woman who would be there. It was a setup, in other words. He asked her to play pool, a very innocent and pleasant way to get to know someone, right? Well, he immediately started to dominate the game and he held nothing back, including taunting her when she made bad shots and just criticizing everything she did in general. Of course he won and rubbed it in her face like he was a 12-year-old. Think, in your face, loser. And these people were in their 30s. It was straight out of a sitcom or something. Everyone who saw it knew why he was and would remain single. Story 6. Oh my god, okay. There was a lot that got said over 2 dinner dates and an afternoon walk, but the real tipping point was this. At an hour-ish dinner, he arrived late, demonstrated how to use Find My for your AirPods for 10 minutes, talked about and demonstrated how bright his bike light is for 15 minutes, embarrassed the waitress with extended conversation, and mansplained my own highly specific job to me for another 10. When something he said presented this side topic, I wrestled away control for 5 minutes to tell him about the DB Cooper air hijacking. He immediately changed the subject as soon as I was done. As he walked me home, he said, "Empathy is all about considering what the other people around you want. When you wasted time at dinner telling that airplane story, you clearly didn't think about whether or not I would find it interesting, and I had stuff I wanted to talk about. No wonder people don't think you're empathetic." Story 7. I had 2 good friends. Both were doctors, both were originally from India, both were lonely and always talking about how much they wanted to meet someone. They were also both very good and kind people. They had a lot in common, and I thought they would make a great match. When I first tried to set them up, they were both quite interested, but then they had to know what part of India the other was from, and I did not know. Turns out one was from the north and the other was from the south, so they did not want to meet. Last I heard, neither one ever married. Story 8. I'm in my 30s with kids. I've done a lot of living since high school, and I met up with an old friend from those days. She complained at length about how she can't find anyone, then confided in me. No one else understands the real us. They're all just NPCs, and we truly understand each other. She was stuck in her high school phase and was convinced that since those were the best years of her life, that must be true of everyone. I get that saying, these are the best years of your life, in reference to high school as a way of being aware of how truly carefree you can be at that age. But if those days are actually the best years of your life, ouch. Story 9. I have a friend who academically peaked in HS and still won't shut up about it. She was our class valedictorian, all-American, all AP classes, 40+ GPA, but then went on to do nothing in college and then nothing today. She fumes learning that someone in our old class became a doctor or lawyer or makes more money than her, and she'll have to point out that they didn't take Y class with her, had a worse GPA than her, etc. I guess she can't fathom that HS grades aren't some glass ceiling and is perpetually trying to relive her glory days. Girl, you are mid-minus 30 seconds. This is hella sad. Story 10. I have an acquaintance who will pursue a woman with the sole intention of sleeping with her, take her out on dates, eventually sleep with her, then be heartbroken because she's just like all those other sluts out there. Why are all women such tramps? These sluts give it up too easy, etc. because she slept with him after weeks of dating. Then he proceeds to ghost them and openly talk about them to mutual friends. Then proceeds to complain about being single and blame it on women being too promiscuous. Story 11. She's too fat, a short, balding friend says about a healthy weight woman who is out of his league. A friend of a friend is like this. He's middle-aged, balding, significantly overweight, etc., which aren't necessarily problems, except that he always turns down any dates or dating app matches he gets, insisting that they aren't up to his standards. His standards are that they must be basically half his age, have a well-paid job, be slim and fit, have long, luscious, shiny hair, no glasses, can cook like a professional chef, is willing to do all the housework. And so, he'd loudly bemoan how women these days have all let themselves go, like how dare they not constantly diet, work out, etc. and shape their lives around being good-looking for him. He takes the mere existence of an average, normal-looking woman as a personal offense, like she only exists to be perfect for him, and she's failing in her obligation. Anyway, my mate finally asked him why the kind of woman he always described would want to be with him. What does he have that would make her, a woman so rich and beautiful and capable that she could have just about any man she chooses, pick him? Is he the best in the world at something she highly values? Is he even in the top 1% of anything? What can he offer her that she can't get from another guy? He got very grumpy, but it got him to be quiet. I hope he ultimately puts his ego aside and actually reflects on it at some point. Story 12. I occasionally get migraines, and one of my coworkers asked me how my husband feels about me having migraines, which I thought was a weird question, but I replied along the lines of, he feels bad that he can't do anything to help me when I have one. Coworker then says, no, I mean, because like I couldn't deal with a woman that had an illness or something like that. I'm too high energy for that. I wouldn't be able to be with her. I said, so you think that my husband would want to leave me because I get migraines? He said, yeah. I said, so if you were married and your wife got sick with something like cancer or some other disease, you'd leave her? He said, yeah, I didn't sign up for all of that. I politely told him to never get married with that attitude. People can't help that they're sick. Story 13. When I hear men, usually straight and Caucasian but not always, espousing the red pill nonsense, it makes me cringe. I wish they could understand that they are being told what they want to hear, where they are the victims of some grand conspiracy, when really what they're experiencing is not being handed the world like they were promised. I have had a friend that went hardcore right-wing, Alex Jones, during the pandemic and never returned. We went out drinking a couple times and it just became too awkward for us to maintain a friendship. He was also dating a girlfriend of mine who dumped him slightly before he went fully insane and likely contributed to him falling into the void. The red pill guys just don't understand the irony of their prerogative, i.e. they are mad that they are being forced into a lifestyle and culture they don't agree with and painted as the bad guys, when literally every single one of their policy objectives seeks to subjugate every racial, gender, and sex minority, LOL. They suddenly think that vaccines are a communist conspiracy and political correctness is brainwashing, while simultaneously legislating what women and trans people can do with their own bodies, and policing what literature and education is acceptable. They want freedom of speech while also being terrified of people learning anything that contradicts their version of reality. In short, the red pill guys who identify as incels should maybe realize that maybe they're single because their political and philosophical stance fundamentally sees women as beneath them, objects owed to them, incubators, stupid, vapid, weak, etc. You can't complain about being single and nobody wanting to f you when you are supporting convicted and commend for public office and in media. Story 14. Whatever you can do, I can do better. A couple friends and I helped set up one of our friends to meet a girl that we all thought would be a good match for him. My friend was a tall country boy who was a little rough around the edges, but he has the heart of gold, will help anyone out, but the brain power of a scarecrow. The date we planned on going great, as they were both mechanics and she was a tomboy who was excited to go on the. She was very cute and outgoing, but the whole interaction between the two of them still pains me to this day. This poor girl made every effort to talk with him about subjects that they had in common and would be engaging, like engines, cars, building a garage, and even vaping. And my friend, being a dumbass, just kept on telling her that everything she could do, he could do better. Like I was witnessing someone film that stupid Nike commercial. After 30 minutes of getting to know each other, the poor girl had enough of his belittling, teasing, and had her friend rescue her from the restaurant as the conversation was going so poorly they were supposed to go to a bonfire together afterwards. To this day, I can't tell if this was my friend's feeble attempt at flirting or if he had reverted back to his 6-year-old self. It was like watching a car accident in slow motion, and his ill-fated attempt of a conversation still pains me to my loins. He still doesn't realize what he did wrong. Story 15. Went on a date where the guy, completely out of left field, tells me his ex killed her roommate shortly after they broke up. That should have been a red enough flag, but I went out again. We saw a movie. He ended up being 15 minutes late and got drinks afterwards. I tried to talk about the movie, but he seemed confused, as if he'd never seen it. He sat next to me the whole time and yet did not recall any of the plot. I assumed he just didn't like it. After failing a conversation, he starts watching the bar TV and making weird comments about women being so picky. Not to me, just to the air. I end up chatting with the bartender most of the time. When we leave, I'm like, okay, well, obviously you're not interested and neither am I, which is cool. Bye. He is shocked. He thought it went well. Boy, you did not say 5 sentences to me in that bar. I was actively hitting on the bartender. In what world was that a good date? No guess why he's still single if he thought that was showing a woman a good time. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below.